everybody, this is Brian Doyle. I'm here again with my friends Rob and Tim for the latest installment of MSP Business School. Our special guest today is Ross Brouse. Ross Brouse is from Continuous Networks, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about a variety of different topics, it sounds like today. A little bit about outreach, a little bit about how we're all wasting time, and a little bit about the lessons he's learned as an MSP as well. So with that, I'd like to say, welcome, Ross. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Tim, Rob, how are you guys today? Anything you want to kick off with before we turn the mic to Rob?
Nah, man, I'm living the dream right now.
Beautiful.
Brian, living the dream, my friend.
Right. We're almost, for those of you we've headed into the March time frame, so I'm not sure exactly which date this is coming out on, but we're starting to see some warmer weather, which is making us all happier.
Yes.
But anyhow, hey, Ross,
it's supposed to be 7 here tonight.
7 tonight?
7.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, tomorrow.
I think we were seeing it's supposed to be like 48, 49 tomorrow, and next week we might even hit almost 60.
It's 52 here right now, so
beautiful.
Just saying.
Ross is a northeasterner too, just a little south of us though, so he's seen a little bit earlier. But anyway, Ross, why don't you kind of start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company? You know, what are you guys up to out in the managed service space?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it probably makes sense for me to explain a little bit about how I came into the MSP business. Funny story, I used to work for a hosting company for my now business partner. I was his employee. And I'll tell you, and I tell him this all the time, probably the best decision I ever made was quitting that job because it launched me into me starting my own hosting business, which I then merged with his in 2010. And we're partners today. And honestly, it's been a fantastic partnership. I can't stress enough how having a really great partnership is important to making a successful business. I've seen so many fall apart due to bad partnerships. But anyway, we have a great partnership and he's like my brother. Funny story, just to give you some background. So yeah, we became a managed services company right around the time Hurricane Sandy hit here. And that happened because we had our own data center and everybody was either flooded or they were offline because they had no power. I remember some really funny stories about some of the data centers in Manhattan that had their generators underwater. It was like, what are you doing? Who planned this? But anyway, we had a lot of people coming to us as a result of that because they wanted to get out of their offices. They wanted to stop doing things that was bad from a disaster recovery perspective. So we started bringing these clients in, and one thing led to another. That really became managed services. We had never really spent a lot of time talking and getting close to people before because it was very commoditized.
Yep.
And after Sandy, we had to talk with them because they all wanted custom infrastructures. I want to connect my office to the data center, or I want my application to do XYZ. So, all right, we got to become consultative and do it that way. So that started right around 2013. That was late 2012 into 2013. And we just grew that over time. Today, we service over 200 customers in the managed services space. And, based on all of that, I got to tell you, we have kind of a love for backup and disaster recovery.
I can believe it. It's funny. I was in the data center space at the same time, Ross, and I still remember catching grief from my wife because we were still onboarding people into the data center about an hour before the storm hit. People trying to giving us hey, can I bring my servers into my colo space before this thing hits? And it was chaos at that point in time. None of us had any idea. I thought I was going to be sleeping there, but I digress. Before we get started a little bit more, I want to talk about something I learned for the first time today. So I've known Ross for a little while now, but there's always things I learn about people when we finally get him to come on the podcast. Ross also didn't come from a different walk of life, coming from hosting the MSP, but you used to be in film school?
Yeah.
Or more of a film guy. So that's a departure. How's one end up in IT at all from that?
They're interestingly similar when you think about it. I was always obsessed with cameras, loved cameras. I wanted to be out there lighting, shooting, creating movies. And so if you think about making television shows, making movies, there's always a narrative, and then there's a hugely technical aspect and a logistical aspect of putting that together. Not unlike onboarding a client, understanding their business, and catering solutions to help them grow it. There is a hugely technical component to that and a narrative that you have to build. So it wasn't that big of a stretch, even though that's the reaction I always get when people say, wait, you went to film school? Yeah, I did. I was actually ready to move to Southern California. I had $16,000 saved, and I was going to buy a 16 millimeter film camera and move to Venice Beach and just be poor until I made it when I was 70 years old.
Right.
But I decided I wanted to have a family and kids, and so I changed that decision, and I actually went into graphic design and programming before I got into IT. The reason that I got into IT is because when I was in graphic design and I started doing development, they were giving us servers. They were giving us old Linux servers where we could host our website. And I was like, this is cool. I like Linux. This is interesting. And I just got fascinated with it, and one thing led to another.
It's always great to hear how people kind of fall into the chaos that is IT services, right?
Yeah,
so
very cool.
that's an awesome story.
Go school. I don't have a computer science degree.
Yeah.
I have an art degree. I'm one of those guys.
Wow. That's very cool.
So, let's talk a little bit about Continuous then. So, what do you guys really focus on, and what do you feel is the thing that makes you unique out in the marketplace?
So, one of the things that we really struggled with when we left the hosting world was that we didn't, like I said before, we didn't really have that strong connection to our customers. And we saw what was happening with AWS and Azure and how they were starting to take over the marketplace. So we knew our days were numbered in that commodity arena. And we really wanted to build those personal relationships. So very early on, we wanted to come up with a tagline before we really knew much about marketing. And so we said, well, what do we want to do? We want to make IT personal. That's what we want to do. Now, we said that, but we didn't live that. We hadn't yet figured out how to determine our core value system. We hadn't really determined how to find out what our purpose was, like why we really existed.
Yep.
And going through a lot of different learning experiences and coaching and programs, we eventually stumbled on a system called Entrepreneurial Operating System. Some people know it as Traction because that was the name of the book. And that really changed the face of our business. That gave us a whole lot of discipline, consistency, and accountability around everything that we did, not only when it came to servicing our clients, but internal, from our processes to the way we communicated with people to how we communicated with each other. So that really led us to start to build a system for our clients where we interacted with them differently. I always tell every one of our engineers, listen, you need to act like you are directly employed by this company. You need to be intimate with who they are. What are they scared of? Who are their competitors? Where are they looking to go over the next several years? What are their struggles, and where do they see technology fitting in? Because if we start having these types of conversations with them, we stop becoming that commodity and we start becoming that value that they can't live without. Now, we're starting to see more and more people do this today, because as I go out there and my team sells, it's harder and harder to get people to break away from their current provider. They're more attached to them, and what it takes to get them to make that change is really difficult. But as we get in and we do that, we start to specialize in certain areas, whether that's cybersecurity. Now compliance is becoming a big thing. We've been hearing cybersecurity forever, but there's compliance legislation coming out all over the place. The state of New York with the New York Shield. We've got COPRA, which is going to be national. I firmly believe that our industry is going to be regulated in the not too distant future. And these are things that we have to be educating them on. They have to know where this is going. And so if we're always there, if we're always in their ear, we're always educating, we're always supporting, we're always guiding, we're always making sure that we're on top of those things, I think that's the real play. Because they can see that I don't need to go, as a 50-person company, as a 100-person company, I don't need to hire 6 technology people to support me. I can hire this team and maybe 1 technology person or 2 and get a drastically better result for a whole lot less money.
Yeah. And that whole co-managed approach is becoming such a big conversation within our industry as well, because you're really seeing it. That's where the MSPs can shine. They can bring that structure, that process, bring some leadership in where these folks have some people that are doing the tactical work. And as we know, the tactical work's become so commoditized anyway. It's not where our values driven anyway.
Yep.
So, that's, it's an awesome approach.
I always tell the team that you are 80% psychologists and 20% technologists. So as long as you keep that in your mind, you're going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's true, right? Especially, and it's so true because most of the people we're talking about are not technologists. So all they're doing is buying on emotion, right? And making these decisions, at least when it comes to what we're intersecting with in their world's based on emotion.
Yeah. Yep.
So, with that said, I think you were going to tell us a little story about one of the biggest challenges you've faced in your life and a big problem that, occurred for you that's really allowed you to take charge within your business. Want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. God, where do I start? There's just so many.
All of us, right?
So I've always been a technology guy. You heard my past experience. I love cameras. I love computers. I love just tinkering with things, taking them apart, putting them back together. There's pretty much nothing I won't take apart. When I was 16 and I got my first car, I took that whole thing apart and replaced it myself.
Wow.
So I was the type of person who always took a book and said, I can do this. Let me figure it out. And then I did. Most of that came from a belief system, not because I really had the technical skill sets to do it. But when the sales and marketing game came about for my business in 2015, I was scared beyond belief because I didn't know how to be a salesperson and I didn't know anything about marketing. It was always this elusive concept to me. And, I didn't want to do it. I was not really interested in being in sales and marketing. I remember in 2015, we bought Robin Robbins' technology marketing toolkit. And we started off with it. And I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, we need to generate some business here. We're not going to have another Hurricane Sandy probably in the next year. It's going to generate clients for us. So we better do something about it, right? We better start learning how to sell and market. And my business partner, Jason, took that on initially. And we started sending out her campaigns and we had a whole bunch of success with it. In fact, by the end of 2016, we had closed $55,000 in new monthly recurring revenue in a period of about 3 months.
That's awesome.
And so we were like, holy crap,
That's amazing.
it's like a silver bullet, right? All you do is send these campaigns out and people just want to buy your stuff. And they did. Well, the problem is we didn't know how to scale. Like we had no idea how to scale our business and we didn't understand hiring. We didn't understand effective management. There were just so many other skills that we were still struggling with as we were still making this move into the managed services space. And so by June of 2017, we had lost half of that business. One of those clients, they were a big one. They started out at about 28,000 and had grown to 55,000. So really we were talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, $75,000, $80,000 that we had brought in, and we ended up breaking up with them. And so that was 55 grand that they were up to right out the door. And that hurt badly. And we didn't really know what to do. We had killed sales and marketing. I had begged Jason to stop sales and marketing because I couldn't keep up with it. I was directing all the technical stuff and I didn't know, I kept taking it all on myself. All right, I got to do this. They want this thing we've never offered before. I need to go figure that out. And he would keep saying to me, can't you use the team or can't you do this? And I'd say, no, because they won't get it. Let me figure it out first and then I'll teach them. So I always had this stupidity in my mind that only I knew how to do it and I always did it best. And if I did it first and I created the model, then I could just have them repeat it. And I just didn't trust that I could hand them over something and say, here, figure it out. I'd done that a few times before and I'd always gotten burned. So that led into a whole series of really bad decisions. We lost money in 2017. We posted negative profit that year. We did it again in 2018 and again in 2019. So we literally consistently lost money. We were taking money out of our own pockets to keep this business afloat. Plenty of times where people would probably come to that point and say, let's sell. Let's get out of this. This is too much stress. But we didn't do that. That's just not who Jason and I are. We knew we needed sales and we were starting to figure out a little bit about marketing, but I think it was January of 2018, when we had first started implementing Traction, we decided we'd hire a salesperson. And we knew we wanted to get one who had worked for an MSP before. So we stole one away from a competitor in the area, and we hired him and paid him some ridiculous salary. I mean, we made some deal. We were desperate. We wanted an outbound salesperson who was going to go out and do lead gen for us and bring in clients and help us grow.
Yep.
We had been paying attention to, a lot of people at IT Nation who were talking about sales. We were getting information, feedback from Paul Dipple, Gary Pica. Like, we were just trying to soak up as much as we possibly could. And so we hired this guy and we agreed to do some ridiculous deal on commission draw and started paying him. By January of 2019, we parted ways. We had closed one client and we had lost $200,000 on him by the time we settled our deal.
Wow.
It was one of the biggest epic mistakes we ever made. And most of that just came from this apathy that we had around sales.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it clicked in my mind that, you know what, I'm just going to have to suck it up, put on my big boy pants and get out there and do this. This is my job now. I got to learn how to sell. And so I started putting things together in my mind. I started making a plan. I had a plan to bring in a telemarketer. I had a telemarketer, but I didn't know how to hire a good telemarketer at the time. And so he wasn't getting any meetings at all. I had tried every outsource company in the book to do lead gen. They all failed miserably, or when they did get meetings, they were a joke. But most of that, that was all my fault. I had no target market. I had no ability to understand what the psychographic drivers of my customer was. Yep. I had no connectivity to it. And so I got out there and I started doing all of that. I had actually kind of realized this back in the middle of 2018. And I started focusing a lot more on marketing, but I hadn't yet gotten to that point where I had fired my salesperson. So now it's my turn to.
I'm going to stop you there, Ross. And a couple of things that I'm hearing from you in that process is, one, I think there's a lot of owners that at that point where they've invested that kind of money without a return on sales, do the opposite of what you're doing, which is I'm done with sales, right? Just completely I'm done, instead of saying, you know what, I got to step up, insert myself into the mix and figure out how to go about this so I can get better at directing those people and really helping them understand what they need to do. Second thing that I heard in the conversation, that's a failure that comes up more. And, Rob and Tim, I think you guys can probably speak more to this. You got to know your buyer persona, right? If you don't know what you're going after nothing. And this is a big step I think most MSPs forget when they really embark into beyond the friends and family sale, right? How to really start identifying who are the people that resonate with us. If you got 15 accountants, why are you chasing after manufacturers, right? Look into yourself. And I think Rob, I think you've told me about some steps that you guys take to kind of get people focused in on that.
Yeah. So the way that we do it is when we look at our clients and then we look at their client deck. And so one of the first things that we always tell the owner or the rep that they have to do is go to their clients and then do the left-right program, right? Wherever your client is, ask them if they know the business to the left and to the right, and see if they can make soft introductions, or if you can make introductions and use their name as a way to get in the door. So you kind of cluster, you build up your little cluster based on the businesses that you've already done. So that was one of the ways that we really found success, doing that, to kind of make a soft interest for our, intro like that.
And I do think you made a couple of good points, even going back to when you were talking about, the EOS model or initially the EOS model, but then you went through this period of time where you tried to take everything on yourself. I think probably everybody on this call can identify with that just a little bit.
Identify that.
But I think what I'm hearing and what makes you different is the fact that you realize that you need to take it over. One of the things I do at OSR, one of my roles in the going to traction is new business. I'm the throat to choke there. And time again, I talk to MSP owners that they just keep on trying. They keep on doing the next 6-month cycle with lead gen, marketing, insert new insert shiny.
Yep.
Insert shiny.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you broke that cycle in itself is a good thing, because there's a lot of people that they don't know how to break out of that cycle.
Yeah, I think the strong thing I heard from you there, Ross, was it's not just breaking the cycle, but having the wherewithal not to let it take you down and to get refocused and then go back at it and attack it instead of letting it relent. And that's not, those are the qualities that are innate to you and to you alone, right? Like you as that person, you got to make that decision. Is this going to sink me or am I going to swim and rise out? Rob, you were about to add something?
Yeah. So I want to know, how did you break that? Right. That is, that's a really hard thing for, entrepreneurs to give up that control, right? It's my baby. I need to do it. Was there something that you did other than just said, I need to make a change? Did you read something? Did you what helped you along that path of giving up control, but still maintaining the comfort, right? And not being filled with anxiety all the time, that you gave up control on some of those pieces?
Well, I mean, first of all, what didn't I read? I read everything I could possibly soak in. I think there were little kind of markers along the way that led me toward it. One of the people that I went to listen to speak to was Larry Winget, and they call him the pit bull of personal development. And he said, "You are exactly where it is you want to be."
Yep.
Now, it seems so stupid when you hear it. You're like, okay, that's stupid. I get that. But isn't it funny how you can address a room of 100 people or 1,000 people and you can tell them something and they'll be, oh, that's a really good idea. And then right back to their train of thought, because motivation is fleeting, right? It's only through consistent disciplines, consistent efforts that you're able to start to reprogram your brain. And so that was really the big thing that I did. Instead of just doing it, because I was doing it when I was doing the technical side, but I wasn't owning it. I wasn't owning the responsibility for how that was going to turn out. And I just said to myself, well, there's no way I can do this alone. I came to that realization. There's no way I can do this alone. It was evident that we had to stop our sales and marketing. There was no way I could do sales and marketing alone either. I needed help. But I still owned the success of whether we failed or we didn't. And that process and consistently repeating, even when you want to get discouraged, because that was that emotion that I said, don't get discouraged. Don't ever let that into your head. You can be disappointed, but don't be discouraged. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. It's tough when you're losing money every year, every month, and you go, why am I still doing this? Where do we go from here? Are we doing the right thing? But it was just this constant having to tell yourself, yep, this is the right path. Keep going. I believe it. I believe it. I'm not going to let this throw me off my path.
Beautiful. Yep. And that's the internal fortitude. And it's why they say that some people are built to lead businesses and be part of, be business owners. And some people, it's really, not for them, right? It's not for the faint of heart. You got to be able to absorb, learn, pivot, move, shake, change, and be adaptable, right? I mean, it's all those things. So, I know in a moment we're probably getting near the end of our time and we want to jump into the speed round. But, with that said, Ross, we kind of jumped into conversation. Anything you want to close off with on that story? What are you doing today? Have you kind of successfully migrated yourself away from sales? Are you going to stay in that role as well? What do you foresee for you in Continuous as you move forward? I mean, it's only 2018 when you made this pivot, so I got to assume it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, no, I have a full-time salesperson now. He was the owner of an MSP we acquired last year. So he is now running sales in my business. I'm able to become more of the integrator today from the traction nomenclature. Yep. And my big passion today is really just to get everybody more effective. I want a higher labor efficiency ratio across my entire team. And so I'm really focused every single day on how do I make people not only as effective as they possibly can be in their positions, but as fulfilled by their work as they can possibly be. Because the more of that I do, I now that I've taught myself all these other things, I know that that's going to lead to big gains down the road.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So Tim, you want to take us into the speed round?
Yeah, so we just have 5 quick questions. A couple of them are multiple choice. The other one's just first thing you think of. So all pretty easy stuff. But first one is text, talk, or Teams?
Text. Well, there's context around that, but you want an immediate response, text me.
Well, yeah, there it is. That's right. Yeah. Music, movies, or TV?
Oh man, definitely music first and then movies second.
Yeah.
Say a film guy can't just say music, right?
No, music, man, that's the film in your head.
It's the most popular answer we hear, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is by far. Yeah. What age do you want to retire?
35. No, I have approximately a 10 to 12 year plan. I'm 42 today. So by 55, if I haven't moved on to the next phase, then I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Mac or Windows?
Definitely Mac. I'm on a Mac right now.
Yeah. If you could do anything outside of tech, what would it be?
Coaching and teaching. And that's what I plan to do when I'm done with this.
So as most people, even though you want to be done with MSP, you don't want to be done. And that's really the most popular answer we get. This is
Every time.
Yeah,
it seems to be an industry of people that are like, yep, this is what I do now. I'll never stop.
Yeah, it's entrepreneurs, man. We have that drive, that internal engine that just goes.
It's
Yeah.
funny. I think there was maybe only one person that didn't say that. And
Out of the entire time. Yeah.
I feel like it was somebody that was kind of given the business.
Second generation family business.
There it is. There it is.
See, I wasn't going to say that. I was
Yeah,
just going to let the whole thing go
That's come right out and say that, but-
My contact, I'll say it.
All right. Well, Ross, we really appreciate you joining us here today. And for anyone that is looking to get in touch with Ross, we will be including his LinkedIn profile along with the podcast. So, please, just jump in there to LinkedIn to check him out. It'll also be on MSPBusinessSchool.com and anywhere that you get your podcast. Ross, before we break away, is there any closing thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, if you're an MSP or owner or really any kind of small business owner and you're looking to grow your business, the best advice I can give you is don't give up. It takes a ton of patience. If you've ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, or if you haven't read it, go read it, because it's got a great analogy about an ice cube. And when you heat an ice cube from 20 to 30 degrees, nothing changes. It isn't until it hits that 32 degrees Fahrenheit that you actually see change happening. But it doesn't mean that change wasn't happening that entire time. So don't give up. Just keep at it.
Beautiful.
You can be disappointed, but you can't be disgusted.
That's right.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. And we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Ross.